Peter Thiel, as an example, Palantir has been in the news, right? He's a co-founder of that. So how was Palantir created? Well, there was this company that was being run, or not company, sorry. It was a government program after 9/11 called Total Information Awareness. It was housed within the Pentagon's DARPA office. And the man they chose to put in charge of that was John Poindexter, who was the highest ranking member of the Reagan administration to be indicted for his role in Iran-Contra, which again, the continuity of government stuff is relevant here. So eventually, it launches and whatever, but people are outraged by it because, as they rightly pointed out, it would eliminate constitutional protections of Americans' rights.
You don't know what's actually going on because the system watching you is no longer looking for criminals. It is predicting who should be treated like one. Surveillance has shifted from observing past actions to forecasting future behavior, where algorithms quietly assign guilt long before you've done anything wrong. While people argue about privacy, decisions are already being made about you, without you, and with no way to fight back.
And its goal wasn't just to, surveil everything. It was to predict crime before it happens, predict terror attacks before it happens. I mean, it's like Minority Report was basically the end goal of it. And so after all the pushback, they changed the name to terrorist.
Surveillance today operates on a completely different logic than most people realize. The system no longer waits for an action, a crime, or even intent. It runs probabilities. It studies patterns. It measures behavior, associations, locations, timing, and movement, then decides who looks like a future problem.
It's about pre-crime. It's about predicting stuff before it happens. And that's what I think a lot of people miss about Palantir, because a lot of people say about mass surveillance, well, I have nothing to hide. But it's not about if you're doing something wrong now or not. It's about an algorithm.
This is where people get trapped by the most dangerous lie of all. I have nothing to hide. That argument assumes surveillance cares about truth or innocence. It does not. It cares about likelihood. An algorithm does not ask who you are. It asks what you resemble in its data. If your routine overlaps with flagged behavior, your life becomes a data point, your presence becomes a signal, and your future becomes a risk score.
So based on your behavior now and your behavior in the past, they want to use artificial intelligence to determine what you may do in the future. And in the case of predictive policing, that would be, well, we've determined that you may commit a crime in the future.
Once prediction replaces evidence, guilt becomes flexible. You no longer need to break a law to attract attention. Standing in the wrong place, speaking to the wrong person, visiting the wrong area, or appearing at the wrong time becomes enough. The system treats correlation as intent and probability as justification.
We are still going to surveil innocent Americans, but we're focusing on the terrorists. They did all this.
This is the psychological shift most people miss. Surveillance used to document reality. Now it shapes it. When software decides who deserves scrutiny before anything happens, freedom turns conditional. You live inside a model that constantly evaluates you, scores you, and updates its opinion in real time.
People are outraged by it because, as they rightly pointed out, it would eliminate constitutional protections of Americans' rights.
And here's the part that should unsettle everyone. You never see the score. You never know what triggered it. You never get a chance to correct it. The decision happens silently, instantly, and permanently, while life continues as if nothing changed.
A program after 9/11 called Total Information Awareness. It was housed within the Pentagon's DARPA office. And the man they chose to put in charge of that was John Poindexter, who was the highest ranking member of the Reagan administration to be indicted for his role in Iran-Contra.
This system grew out of fear, turned into authority. After September 11th, a crisis opened the door and power rushed through it. Inside the Pentagon, DARPA launched Total Information Awareness with a brutal objective: absorb every data stream and turn prediction into control. Financial records, travel patterns, communications, biometrics, and digital behavior were fused into a single engine designed to model people rather than investigate crimes. Every action became input. Every life became a variable.
Line from geolocations of cell phones to GPS tracking to travel, banking, and medical records are increasingly fodder for an overt or covert acquisition by federal analysts.
Public backlash forced a surface-level retreat. The name changed, the language softened, and Total Information Awareness resurfaced as Terrorist Information Awareness. Targets narrowed on paper while the machinery stayed intact. When funding ended, the system slipped from public view instead of collapsing. The blueprint survived, waiting for private ownership where scrutiny weakened and power could expand quietly, free from public resistance.
Fight terrorism by terrifying U.S. citizens, basically, and making everyone a suspect under this type of this paradigm he was seeking to usher in.
At the center of this transition stands a familiar name in American power history, John Poindexter. This was a man shaped by Iran-Contra, a scandal defined by secrecy, parallel power, and operations beyond public reach. That history made him ideal. The mindset that once justified covert wars now justified total surveillance, upgraded for the digital age where data replaced weapons.
After the Reagan administration, Poindexter was sort of in various roles throughout these tech companies that were sort of a prototype to what Palantir and Total Information Awareness would later do.
His presence revealed the real design. Programs end, outrage fades, names change, but the architects remain. Power survives by moving quietly from one structure to the next, carrying the same logic forward. Total Information Awareness was never a temporary response to crisis. It was the foundation of a permanent predictive system, built to outlast scrutiny and reappear stronger under new ownership. When Congress announced the shutdown of Total Information Awareness, and the public was told the danger had passed, funding was pulled, outrage faded, and attention moved on. Quietly buried language inside the same legislation allowed critical surveillance components to survive, migrate, and operate under new labels.
I argue in my work on Palantir that an effort was made to privatize large aspects of TIA as Palantir.
This was the escape hatch. Predictive surveillance moved out of public view and into private infrastructure, where contracts replaced law and secrecy replaced oversight. The power remained, visibility disappeared, and permanence increased. What failed under public scrutiny returned stronger and harder to challenge.
Teal Carp to Poindexter, and they basically wanted to talk to Poindexter because they wanted to recreate Total Information Awareness and saw him as the godfather of modern mass surveillance.
Palantir became the private container for a system the public rejected when it was openly governmental. The same architecture was rebranded as analytics. Surveillance became integration. Monitoring became insight, prediction became optimization. The function never changed, only the language did.
Teams up with In-Q-Tel, the CIA's venture capital firm. Alex Karp has said on record that the intended clients of Palantir from the beginning was the CIA, and the CIA was their first client for their first 6 years as a company.
Private ownership erased accountability. Oversight collapsed, transparency vanished, and scrutiny stopped at the edge of proprietary secrecy. Inside a corporation, the system could scale, adapt, and embed itself across institutions without resistance. Same power, wider reach, less friction. Palantir was built inside the intelligence ecosystem from the start. The CIA was a core customer before the product was fully formed. Engineers worked directly with intelligence officials, refining the platform through real operations. The system was shaped by live surveillance needs, not theory.
The idea that it would be total, it would surveil absolutely everyone through a name change, but obviously it didn't change how the program actually worked. It would still be focused on everyday Americans.
Palantir's DNA was shaped by intelligence agencies. The software learned how they link people, assess risk, and turn data into action, producing an intelligence-grade system rebranded as commercial technology. Key figures from post-9/11 surveillance programs, including Alan Wade, moved into Palantir's orbit. The same justifications, privacy safeguards, controlled access, responsible use, were reused almost verbatim, showing continuity, not change.
You know, if you look in the UK, for example, some of these algorithms for facial recognition have been rolled out, even though they've been shown over there too to be hugely inaccurate, and there's no interest in changing.
This was pattern reuse, plain and deliberate. The same concepts reappeared under new projects, refined quietly long before Palantir entered the scene. Names shifted, branding softened, roles rotated, yet the architecture remained intact. This is how surveillance survives resistance. Ideas migrate, builders resurface, and power rebuilds itself in quieter spaces with better cover and wider reach.
And this inaccuracy is demonstrated. So to me, that says that their goal is to have us induce obedience by the fact that you're being watched all the time, and anything you may do could be used against you, even if you're not doing anything wrong now.
That is why the joke about a personal file lands so hard. It feels familiar because it mirrors reality. A modern profile stitches together movements, contacts, habits, health signals, and conversations into a living record. record. Video feeds add posture, pace, routines, and behavioral patterns across months and years. A human life becomes a biography written by software, updated constantly, evaluated continuously, and measured against millions of other lives. From there, expansion accelerates. Predictive logic spills into emergency systems, call centers, and response networks where urgency, credibility, and threat receive instant scores. Centralization follows efficiency, and efficiency follows control. As infrastructure funnels into fewer platforms, power concentrates silently while oversight dissolves behind technical complexity.
It was, I think, first announced in February 2003, and by May they attempted to change the name to Terrorism Information Awareness.
Language shifts at this stage. Corruption feels too small to describe what happens next. Consolidation explains it better. Technology speeds capture by turning data into leverage and velocity into authority. Old methods of compromat lose relevance when everyday life generates endless material on its own. Phones, cameras, apps, and sensors perform the work non-stop, feeding profiles that shape outcomes without confrontation.
A lot of information, but the thing is, we're never going to get an affidavit from the CIA being like, yes, we did bad things. Like, we've known they've done bad things in various decades. It's been very documented, and they won't admit to bad things there in almost every one of those cases. So it's like, you're not going to get that about Epstein or about anybody else.
Control then splits into two paths. Harvesting collects authentic data from devices, networks, and environments, assembling portraits that influence access, scrutiny, and opportunity. Planting introduces doubt through flags, signals, and associations that trigger attention and pressure. Either path bends reality toward the same destination: compliance driven by uncertainty. The pattern reveals itself through recurring scandals. One name absorbs attention, then disappears, while the machinery remains untouched. Individuals serve as examples inside a system that rewards usefulness and discards visibility. The structure learns, adjusts, and continues forward, indifferent to faces and headlines.
To your database, basically, it's sucked up by the NSA or GCHQ or any of these other agencies, and you're profiled based on it. Or if there isn't incriminating stuff, they can plant incriminating stuff on your devices.
So you're screwed either way.
If they want to screw you, I mean, sure.
Blackmail evolves into something more refined. Intelligence prizes information that steers behavior, shapes markets, and aligns outcomes. Data delivers that influence at scale. Awareness alone alters decisions. Observation encourages self-regulation, removing the need for overt enforcement. Power rarely admits wrongdoing in public. Confessions almost never come in official statements. The truth shows itself over time through repeated patterns, consistent behavior, and real-world outcomes. Waiting for someone in power to openly admit abuse only gives these systems more time to spread and settle into everyday life.
Google admitted last week federal officials partnered with companies not just to monitor speech, but to suppress it on a grand scale.
Exposure changes the strategy. When attention becomes dangerous, access creates distance. Public connections fade while private communication grows stronger. Influence continues behind closed doors, protected by silence, discretion, and separation rather than visibility. And here's the truth that cuts through all of it. The cameras watching you serve a purpose far beyond safety. They map you, they analyze you, they judge you. Every step, every pause, every appearance in public feeds systems you never see, run by operators you never meet, shaping decisions you never get to challenge. This is Palantir's vision of the future. Total surveillance, total analysis, total control. And they're building it right now, one camera at a time, until there's nowhere left to hide and no way left to fight back.